Yeah, hi folks, this is Martin from the photoacademy.eu, and here we have another video tutorial about what you can do with layers. This is still a little bit more for the beginners, but some advanced techniques, what you can do with layers, and it's a little bit of quick and dirty tips to get a very quick result for your image. So this is a shot from the Swedish Lapland. This is a mountain formation that's called Lappporten, and I took this shot with a telephoto lens, and quite often if you have shots with telephoto lens up in the mountains, you have a little bit of a color cast like you have here. It's a little bit bluish, looks good for the sky, but here on the rocks I don't like it that much, and it's a little bit down in the shadows as well. So here's the first tip I have for you. If you have JPEG shots with your smartphone, or if you have forgotten to change your temperature settings in your RAW converter, or if you came back to your image, it's already inside of Photoshop, or like I use here, Photoshop Elements, and you see a little bit of a bluish tone or another tone, you can correct this very quick and dirty with the adjustment layer. You can use a solid color layer for this. This is not very accurate, but it's quick and dirty. So if you follow these things I do here, you will get a good result. It's not 100% accurate, but it's okay to fix this problem a little bit, and we are artists, so I think it's good, or the image looks good if it looks good for your eyes and if it's okay for you. There are a lot of other things you can do to your image to color correct it, but this is a quick and dirty way, and this is no have to color correct. Yeah, so you have a yellow color fill layer. The only thing you have to know if you're a beginner with image processing, you can correct colors like you do with the temperature slider inside of a RAW converter. Blue is against yellow and vice versa, like it's red and green. So you can correct a blue color cast with a yellow layer, and the best you can do is set up a color fill layer, set it in the blending mode of color, so you see that the contrast of the image is still the same. Then you use opacity for this layer of about 15%. Depends a little bit of the color cast and the color you choose. If you have chosen the wrong color for the first time, you can go back by double clicking this layer. You can jump around here with your mouse and click. You can adjust the slider to get it a little bit more warmer tone. And everything you do to your layer, you see immediately. If you take a look on this area here, if I push it up to green, you see it immediately. So it's up to you, it's up to your eyes. Only concentrate on that area that you think has the most of the color cast and adjust for this area. I show you a very fast little trick after this adjustment. This looks good for me right now. We'll take a look on the before and after. It's okay for me in the clouds. It's okay for me in the foreground and on the mountains. I like to have a little bit of color cast, but not that much. But it's not good for the blue in the sky, so that we can fix very easy. We can paint it with a brush, but there's a much better way. You use your gradient tool, use a gradient from black to white, and you click somewhere. So if you have a straight horizon line, you hold down the Shift key, draw the line, and you have the mask here. Alt and click on the mask, you'll see the black, the white, and the transition from black to white. Alt and click on the mask, you go back. If it's not okay for you, like this is a little bit too white, this is a little bit too yellow, you can use a brush down here, or you can adjust, oops, sorry for that. You can adjust this very easy by drawing another line, or you use a different transition. So there are many ways to do this. But the point is you get rid of the yellow here up in the blue sky. And if it's a little bit too much, change the opacity. This is the first tip. The next tip is I like to increase the contrast. You already know if you have seen the first video. We can use a black and white layer or a layer copy with the blending mode of soft light or overlay. But I have another trick for you. It's a gradient map. And this gradient map you set to overlay or soft light, hard light, whatever you want. Then double click the gradient. And here you can change what you want to do to your contrast, how much you want to use it. We have to use black to white to get the most contrast out of it. You can adjust the black slider, you can adjust the white slider, and you have a little diamond here. You can adjust the transition between black and white, as well as clicking beside this diamond to get another slider that you can change to a 50% gray. And with this you can adjust the midtones and the transition for this with the diamonds. So I think something like this looks good for me. And then I changed the opacity so that I have a good contrast to the image. I think something like this might help. And we are done with our first two layers to adjust our original layer. We can go back before and after, holding down the Alt key, clicking on the eye. You can look on the before, the original, and the after. So after this we go into a little bit more. We choose another adjustment layer, another solid color or photo filter, depends to your taste. For this example I will use a photo filter, but you can also choose whatever color you want with the solid color, but only that you can see what we can do with photo filters. And here we have a set of presets. that you can use. It's like the old analog time with the cameras and the color filters in front of the lens. I will use a LBA warming filter. You can set the density of this, how you like that. I like a little bit of this, not that much. Before and after will help us to see what's going on with the opacity. So I like this warm tone. You also can set up a mask, or by holding down the Alt key on the big Photoshop, you can drag and drop this. It's nothing inside of Elements, but only for the advanced users that have the money for Photoshop. You can drag and drop to copy this layer. That's possible. Otherwise, you choose the gradient tool or whatever you want. You can select this as well. But for me, I don't want to have this mask for this layer because I'm going on with my adjustments. I will use the last layer for this video. So now you have a color image with a warm tone on top of it. Now we create another gradient map between photo filter and the first gradient map. We take this gradient, double click, black to white, and for this I will stay on black and white. You can also use this gradient to set up black and white images, and this was also the reason why I chose the warm color photo filter on top of all the layers. I have a color cast for my black and white that looks good to print, and I have the black and white, and here I can change by having this layer in normal mode the contrast of the black and white, how much I want to have it, how dark I want to have the black, sorry for that. You can adjust the diamond, like I showed you on the first one, and you also can set up another one with double clicking on that with a 50% not blue, 0 and 50% gray we want to have. And now you can control the midtones. You can control the transition with the diamonds like we did on the first one. We lighten, often it's good to lighten the darks. Mostly it's too dark, but from the first video you know you can adjust this with the mask. So I think something like this is good for my eyes, for my taste. Take a look on the before and after, only on black and white. Yeah, that looks good to me. Choose the brush tool with white, opacity of 30% I think. Make this guy a little bit softer and bigger, something like this. And paint back a little bit of the blacks, just a little bit, so that I have my blacks back, the details in the blacks. Of course I have to use a black to get rid of the effect on these areas. And as you can see, I hope so, you can see this on the video, we get a little bit of a color cast inside of the areas we mask out, and this is because we have a color underneath this layer. So if you want to get rid of this, just copy this second black and white gradient, or do another gradient between this, just a black and white, nothing more. And then you can adjust these layers like you want. You can mask back the details in these areas because of this other black and white layer. Double click the word, you can adjust this. You can rename it. And this we did here with the masking is one of the reasons how layers worked. You have all these layers, each on top of the other. And if you're masking something or using blending modes, you're looking to the other layers underneath. So if you have a blending mode, like we did here with the color mode, or with this overlay for the contrast, this overlay blending mode takes this layer and blends it into the other layers underneath. Or like we did here, we have a color cast where we mask out the areas. If we have another layer underneath that is black and white, we only get the details back for the blacks, but we are not having this color cast because these masking areas are looking on another black and white and not on a color. That's like the opacity do. This is only a 43% opacity, so that's not real black and white because all the other layers underneath are shining through this layer. And this is how layers are working. On top of all the layers, I have the color cast, the warm color filter here, the LBA filter. It's on top of everything. This is the reason why everything has a little bit of a color cast of 90 or less %. Yeah, this was it. Some tips about layers, creative tips, and fast, quick and dirty tips what you can do with layers to have a black and white image or an image with a little bit of a warm tone or a color correct image with a little bit of a contrast. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you soon.